one thing that I think, and I'm sure you agree, that's I think extremely encouraging and will help with your campaign and others is what's going on with labor right now. And this whole sort of uprising in labor, I think, is very nonpartisan. And it's very based on what's reasonable for most people. So this is as populist as it gets. And I think that wave is only going to help campaigns like yours. I mean, what's your feel out there in canvassing with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this awareness that large corporations have really screwed us over, and that even in this moment of global pandemic and the war and all of this, that their greed knows no bounds in many ways, and being willing to raise prices and all of that. So yeah, no, I think there's a real galvanizing moment. I mean, the reality though, still running a non-corporate campaign is that our biggest challenge is getting the word out and having the resources to make sure that people have heard about this, that you have an alternative, that you have a choice in this election that isn't just politics as usual. But the message is landing for sure, and the people are ready to go.
Yeah. I just think the timing is really like almost a perfect storm right now in terms of people's frustration level with just the general oligarchy, and just really sick and tired of it.
Absolutely. And, that's the other thing that we're finding. And now we have data to back it up, in a place like Ohio that some national people are writing off as, oh, it's completely Trumpian, that you find, we find our voters over 80%, in some cases supporting Medicare for all, for example, over 80% want an increase in the minimum wage. And this is what Ohio really is. Ohio is a progressive place. We just haven't had leadership that's kept up with where the people are going and the real experiences that folks are having on the ground. So yeah, it's a perfect storm in many ways. Our biggest challenge now, with just a few days to go, which is again hard to believe, on May 3rd, is just getting the word out. So yeah, we just, we're hustling, door knocking, texting, the phones, we've released an ad, which is going over really well. And so we just have to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Speaking with Morgan Harper, candidate for the U.S. Senate in the state of Ohio, this race didn't really, get enough attention for several months. And unfortunately, it took the GOP, being a much more Democratic party, having debates amongst every one of the candidates. Obviously, now J.D. Vance has clearly moved to the front of the line with Trump's endorsement, among other things. Your primary opponent, Congressman Ryan, decided that he was basically just going to ignore you from us. And I will say that I did watch the debate between you and the two other candidates, and you are so far and away the better candidate, it's not even funny. And so the idea of avoiding you is, to me, was simply a question of, I'm not that good of a candidate and I'm corporate, so I don't want people to actually hear Morgan's message. Because if they do, chances are I might actually be in a legitimate race here. But the truth is, when somebody like Trump, who is immensely popular in Ohio, just like he is here in Florida, puts his thumb on the scale for a race as he has in your state and in Pennsylvania, that means that whoever is going to win the primary and ultimately the general is going to win if they are the populist candidate. Tim Ryan is anything but a populist candidate. And so the Democrats in the state better recognize that if they do not nominate somebody like yourself who is not bought by the machine, they have zero chance in November. Zero. So, talk about the importance of what that first debate meant to you and where the momentum has been ever since as a result of, obviously, this important message about economic populism, which is the order of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't even tell you how frustrating it was not to be able to have an opportunity earlier. And again, it's not just about me. It's not about my campaign. We're at a place as a country, as a state, y'all are feeling it too in Florida. We experience very similar things, I would say, in terms of what's happening at the state legislature and all that, of democracy. What does it mean? And if we're really going to be a Democratic Party and really stand up for democracy, well, then we don't hide in corners and hope for the best or have Republicans that are going to out-discourse us. Like, we need to be aggressively out there. And, the fact that it took until, what date was that? Maybe you know better than I do. What was our date? It was March 20th.
It was a few weeks ago. Ultimately, I still think the only reason that he debated you had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with the party insiders saying, if the GOP is doing debates and we're not, we're toast. And that
Yes, by the end of this campaign, they will have done 13 candidate forums and debates since they all got started.
And you have done
one. And we have a candidate forum coming up this Thursday. I do want to shout out Ohio Young Black Dems that's hosting that. But as you all know, candidate forums are different than debates. Candidate forums, you don't interact. Candidate forums, you don't get to counter what someone else has said. And so it's a lot less, I would say, informative for the voters about what some of the candidates stand for, and then really forcing the candidates to defend their positions. Because as we saw in that debate, when push comes to shove and Congressman Ryan has to really back up some of the things that he has done and stood for, well, then we get him saying things like, I'll take money from anybody. What's the big deal, right? Or Joe Manchin, I voted for Build Back Better and then I took Joe Manchin's money. What's the big deal? It's like, it's all a big deal. It's a very big deal. This is why people hate Washington, D.C. This is why we do not win. And if we're going to restore trust in this whole political system, well, then you need to actually believe the things that you stand for and really mean it and follow through on it. And I completely agree with you here. I mean, people are hip to what is going on. And so, I mean, another telling moment in that debate was when, I confronted him about how much money he's taking from the defense contractor industry, over $400,000 over the course of his career. He's like, well, those are jobs that are coming to Ohio. I was like, excuse me? You need to take bribes in order to produce jobs for us as a state? And by the way, you've been overseeing a district that has lost its manufacturing sector over your 20-year career, that 50,000 people have moved away from in your 20-year career. So spare me the necessity for taking bribes from very large corporations in order to have an economic development strategy. Get a better one.
This is one of the reasons why, and I say it all the time, it's ironic that the Republican Party is more democratic than the Democratic Party. They don't have superdelegates. They actually do have debates with their candidates. Like, the Democrats do everything they can to basically get rid of any challenge or of discourse or anything like that, because then they would actually have to have a platform. They would actually have to do something. And I don't think they really want to. I think they like Republicans being in power. I know they love them in the White House. They make major fundraising and they don't have to do anything. And right now, we can see it. We have a Democrat in the White House. We have a Democrat majority in Congress, and we can't do anything because Joe Manchin? Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, they can't even come up with reasons why they can't do anything.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say, just in terms of Republicans and democracy, I mean, we have to be real about the fact that all this gerrymandering, map redrawing, I mean, they've just blown through all these deadlines here in Ohio. So certainly don't want to suggest that Republicans are the beacon of democracy by any means. But, when it comes to these primaries, I mean, clearly just look at our race. They're a lot more comfortable with inviting that kind of competition and open dialogue. And that's what real people want. I was just talking to someone we were at the Hamilton County and Cincinnati Board of Elections today because early vote has started here. And they were telling me, just a regular person that shows up and is like, why would we not know everyone who's in a primary? Like, I only heard about you through X internet thing, but why doesn't the party tell us all the Democrats who are running? It's like, that's a great question, because they don't, I agree with you, because it's not about winning. It's about your person winning. And even if they end up losing, well, we gave it a good college try. But the stakes are very high in Ohio right now. And, it's beyond elections at this point. It's like we are losing a generation of people, lost to death, literally death, drug overdoses, gun violence, mental health, suicide, all of it. And we need to come together and really be aggressive here about what it's going to take to win for a future, for us as a state, for a country.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.